Hello and good afternoon friends, welcome to EduSet CEC live lecture. Dear friends, as you know, in this session we try to bring for you the subjects which are very important to you, in the sense that because science for some students is very difficult, but when we talk about environmental sciences, it is a science which is applied in your course study also, as well as in your day-to-day life. So dear friends, you also know that we have talked a lot about air pollution. We have discussed it in detail. Today also we are going to discuss about air pollution, but today we are going to recall once again what we have learned in the previous sessions. We are going to learn those basic terminologies which we sometimes skip during the classes. So welcome once again to all the viewers, as well as I would like to tell all the students that we have again with us in our studios Dr. Arun Srivastav. He is a Assistant Professor in School of Environmental Sciences, JNU. I hope that under his able guidance, today also we are going to learn more about air pollution. So first of all, I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Arun Srivastav. Hello, sir. Welcome to the EduSet lecture. As through you only, we are discussing a lot on the air pollution and all the things which are related to the pollution. Now the question arises, as we have discussed earlier also, but because we are refreshing once again, what is air pollution if we talk about?
Well, good. In fact, we know our atmosphere. If we start from Earth, we have three different layers, three different categories. One is biosphere, atmosphere, and the another is hydrosphere. So hydrosphere is that which is comprised of water, that is ocean, rivers, glaciers, etc., etc. The second one is lithosphere, biosphere. Biosphere is that actually consists of the surface of the Earth, which contains human being, different biota, flora, fauna, etc., and etc. Third is atmosphere. Atmosphere is basically composed of different chemicals, different compounds, and this is a kind of, you can say, it is having the least density and is floating over the biosphere or the Earth's surface. In fact, our atmosphere has a fixed composition. It comprised mainly of nitrogen, that is around 78%. The next one is oxygen, that is 21%. So in total, these two elements or these two chemicals make it 99%. Remaining 1% is comprised of many other gases, out of which 0.9% is argon. So it is left, we are left with just around 1.1% or slightly more than 0.1%. So this 0.1% is comprised of other gases. There could be carbon dioxide, hydrogen, helium, neon, and water vapor. Although more or less all the other compounds what I named just now is fixed, its composition is fixed, whether we are at the poles, I mean whether we are at the Antarctica, or at the equators, I mean some continental places, or at the ocean. Everywhere its composition is certain, except one parameter, that is water vapor. Water vapor is highly variable. It can vary from 0 to 4%, sometimes it is 4% when the humidity is very, very high. Otherwise, every other components are fixed. But what happens due to many other activities, whether it is man-made, I mean human activities, human caused activities, or the natural activities, this composition is varied. I mean the fixed composition is intruded by some other elements. They are called as foreign elements or unwanted elements or unwanted compounds. When its presence exceeds a limit, or when it becomes a kind of threatening, or it becomes as such, its destruction or its self-destruction becomes impossible, or it is more or less there to remain, then we call that air has been polluted. And it has been polluted by various other unwanted elements. This is known as air pollution.
So within the word air pollution, if we see, air is the air which is around us. But when we talk about the pollution, pollution too has a word which where signifies pollutants.
Yes.
So what are these pollutants?
Yes, I said unwanted or undesired chemicals which are present in the, why we call it pollutant? Because they are not good, they are not required. If they are present, they can be harmful to us. It can't be harmful to humans only, but it can be harmful to many other things, whether it is, the other components of the biosphere, mainly biosphere, sometimes the hydrosphere as well as the atmosphere too.
So as we know that every gas in the atmosphere has its own composition,
Yes.
or its percentage is there. If you talk about the nitrogen and the oxygen, which are the highest, are these two are more likely to for the further air pollution?
No, they are not. They are, in fact, oxygen is the essential thing. If oxygen wouldn't have been there, the human life or the bio life were not possible. So oxygen is a required. They are never pollutants. They are the natural occurring components of the atmosphere, oxygen and nitrogen both. Nitrogen is also useful in various other forms. In fact, nitrogen is a carrier gas for many other things. So they are not pollutants. But due to mainly due to the industrial activities, many other gases are intruded into the atmosphere. They are mainly pollutants.
So if you talk about, as you said, that the other components which intrude into the atmosphere causes pollution. Now what are those sources because of which pollution is caused?
Yes, basically we categorized as if we categorize them as far as their sources are concerned, there are two types. One is natural, another is anthropogenic. Or anthropogenic is basically man-made or because of the human activities. So first, natural. What are natural sources? Natural sources are very less. They are generally, you can say, the main is volcanic eruption. Volcanoes are the main natural sources, but the occurrence of volcano, if we see the earth, the places where the volcanic activities are there, they are very, very less. So their contribution is not very significant. As far as space and time is concerned, they are mostly localized. But so this is one of the sources, one of the natural sources. Apart from that, sometimes decomposition of natural things, like if some wood etc. are there, or some crops etc. are there. So because of its decomposition, methane gases are emitted. Methane gases are also a kind of pollutant. They are basically they are not very injurious to the humankind, but they are a kind of global warming agents. And excuse me, I think I forgot the other type of sources. So these were the natural sources. Apart from that, the other is anthropogenic. We call it anthropogenic. Anthropogenic is mainly the sources which are because of the human activities. So there are many. If we start as far as their intensity is concerned, they are mainly the vehicular sources. Vehicles are menace nowadays. In fact, we are in Delhi, and Delhi has around 70, not around, I think over 70 lakhs of registered vehicles. That it includes four-wheelers as well as two-wheelers. So, one of the major anthropogenic sources is vehicles. Apart from that, industries also do contribute a very significant amount in the pollution scenario. So these industries could be many type, and mainly in our country, especially in Delhi and around Delhi. Apart from industries, the power plants, because in India we use the power supplied to us is mainly given to us by the thermal power plants. Around 60% of the power plants in India are based upon on the thermal energy. So, coal based. So thermal power plants are also a major source of anthropogenic emission sources. So apart from industrial and vehicular sources, there are few insignificant or smaller degrees sources are. They are domestic uses, sometimes even domestic burning, although it is very small, but we have a huge population. So these small burning makes a significant contribution, although it is not as much as the industries and vehicles are, but they also do contribute in significant amount. So the domestic is also one of the anthropogenic sources.
So these are the sources due to which the pollution is caused into the atmosphere. Sir, now question arises, does the burning of the garbage also produces pollutants
Yes,
which harms the
burning
atmosphere?
of anything, if we burn even the incense sticks, which we use for auspicious occasion, etc. But although it is in very small quantity, but what I say that because everything is anyhow directly or indirectly made up of carbon, so burning of carbon gives rise to the pollution. It depends upon, because the basic unit of anything which is burnt is carbon. So carbon dioxide or carbon monoxides are certainly emitted into the atmosphere, and they are the pollutants. Apart from that, for fragrance, if we take example of incense stick, for fragrance or for color, etc., we coat it with different chemicals, different compounds. So naturally, apart from the carbon, that petrol compound is also burning. So we are releasing them into the atmosphere. So whether it is garbage or good thing or bad thing, whatever it is, if we burn anything, because that is a kind of fuel, that is a kind of fossil fuel. So if we burn anything and it goes into the atmosphere, it contributes to the pollution level of the atmosphere.
So there is any difference between if we, as you talked about, that burning of anything produces pollutants which ultimately harms the atmosphere, but burning a natural thing, for example, if you talk about wood or burning crackers, is there a difference of contaminants produced in the atmosphere?
Definitely there are difference. Why we are not much concerned about both, etc., because it is nowadays we are shifted to the gas stove, etc., but initially the cooking for ages we were based on the coal or the wood. Why we were not much concerned about the burning of wood? We never say that it is good for the atmosphere. It is never good. It is as equal bad as other pollutants. But the thing is that the pollutants emitted into the atmosphere by these woods, etc., they are short-lived. I mean, if they are emitted into the atmosphere, mainly they emit oxides of carbon. So it is either carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. Over the time, in due course of time, it is decomposed into its fragrance. Carbon dioxide is taken away by the plants, etc. So it consumes, and plants consume carbon dioxide and it gives back the oxygen. So this carbon dioxide is recycled. I mean, the bad carbon dioxide is gone. Similarly, the carbon monoxide is reactive. It combines with the oxygen to form carbon dioxide, and again the carbon dioxide is consumed. But many other things like petroleum, fossil fuel, etc., they not only give to the carbon dioxide or oxides of carbon. Apart from that, they give many other pollutants. Some of them pollutants they are not short-lived. They are very, very long-lived. I must say that they are pollutants which can remain into the atmosphere for millions of years. I mean, millions means 10 lakhs of years before getting it decomposed totally or totally destroying from the atmosphere. Although there are few, but there are. So that is why the pollutant types are also different. Like you said, the crackers. Definitely crackers are composed of this gunpowder, and basically it contains potassium and chlorides per chlorate of potassium and others first group elements like sodium, etc. Apart from that, for getting the effect, colored effects, etc., they are not only gunpowder, but to get the different sparkling effect from the crackers, the the people involved in cracker making, they include it with different chemicals, different heavy metals like zirconium, chromium, nickel, cobalt, etc., to get the different effects or different colors. These are the elements which are not easily destroyed once they are reached into the atmosphere. So the dangerous part is that because they remain into the atmosphere for a very long time, and they not only injure the atmosphere, but they also causes significant injury to the human being or to the human health.
So these are the matters with the burning of the crackers, we could say. That is why we have seen that the temperature usually goes high at the time when we have festive season.
Yes, naturally.
Now, sir, question arises. It is a very genuine and a very natural question which I would like to ask you, that the owners of the personal vehicles, the people who have personal vehicles, they are asked to check their vehicles with the pollution checker. What is that criteria? Why it is asked for that? One should check their pollution of the produced by the vehicle.
Yes, they are like in petrol, because vehicles are mostly either run by petrol, diesel or CNG. Some vehicles are there which are run on LPG. So these are the main fossil fuels on which the vehicles run. The main components, what we should be concerned as far as the vehicle is concerned, it is oxides of nitrogen. So the vehicles mainly emit the oxides of nitrogen as well as the oxides of carbon, CO or NO2. They are the major components that come out from the vehicle. So how oxides of nitrogen come? Because in the engine chamber where the burning takes place for the running of the vehicle, the temperature goes very, very high, and burning of fossil fuel requires the oxygen. And since I said you in the beginning only, the atmosphere, the major components are oxygen as well as nitrogen. So it is not only that the engine takes the oxygen, but along with oxygen it also takes the nitrogen, and the temperature inside the engine chamber or the burning chamber is very, very high. So what happens? Because of that high temperature, nitrogen combines with the oxygen to form oxides of nitrogen. This nitrogen oxide is a significant pollutant because it is not there to remain in the engine, it has to come out with the exhaust. So these are the two major components, or we can say the inorganic pollutants. Apart from that, we have hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are also a significant pollutant. They are they also are the form of pollution that can be that can come out from the vehicles. How the hydrocarbons come? Because the fossil fuels, whether it is a petrol or it's a diesel or natural gas or LPG, they are mainly hydrocarbons. They are the chain of hydrocarbon. So the burning of these hydrocarbons do give rise to emission of, because it is not a complete burning. If it would have been complete burning, the total hydrocarbon would have been burned to give the energy or to give the heat for running the vehicle. But since it is never an ideal burning or it is never a complete burning, so some of the hydrocarbons which were in the form of liquid initially, if it is petrol or diesel, now because of the burning is converted in the gaseous form and gets out in the atmosphere. So this is a kind of organic pollutant. So carbon monoxide, oxide of nitrogen as well as carbon dioxide, these three plus one hydrocarbon. Apart from that, we do measure the vibration, because the engine creates noise. So generally a pollution inspector, or where the pollution check is done, they measure these 3 or 4 parameters and it should be within the norm. I mean, the emission standard should be in a prescribed limit. If it is not in the prescribed limit, so it means it is crossing the normal level, it means it is causing the pollution to the atmosphere. So these are the things that, and because over the time as the engine gets older, the production, if engine efficiency is decreasing, the production, the incomplete burning, what I said, is more. I mean, then the production of these pollutants become more and more. So that is why we are asked to regularly check up. I mean, nowadays in Delhi it is every 3 months we will have to get a pollution certificate, so that we can know whether it is within the prescribed limit or not. If it is crossing the prescribed limit, then the need is there that the car should be serviced, because the engine should be properly cleaned, so that an efficient burning can take place inside the engine. If it doesn't happen, then then we can say then that there is some problem in the engine, and now it is needed that it should go to the mechanic, so the engine can be modified, can be repaired properly to have an efficient burning.
So with this note, we would like to tell all the viewers who might be watching us that they should take their personal vehicles for continuous checking, that as you said, for within the span of the 3 months, so that their vehicle also survived, as well as it doesn't cause this pollution in the atmosphere anymore. Sir, as we have been discussing more about, and we have discussed earlier also, that pollution is a cyclic process, that if you talk about pollution in the air, it is somewhere hampering the land air and land water also. So I would like you to tell us in detail once again how the cyclic process works.
Well, cyclic process, it is not as such that it will go into the air pollution will has a direct link with the water, but it might have, because what happens during Delhi is a very polluted city, is a highly polluted city. I mean, nowadays, very recently it was termed as one of the most polluted, I mean #1 polluted city of the world. So since Delhi is highly polluted, it's more or less all the criteria pollutants level is exceptionally high. It is going very high than the expected limit or the prescribed limit. So definitely what happens during the rain, monsoon, the suspended particles which comprised of other pollutants also, although the gaseous pollutants cannot be washed away, but the suspended particles, they are washed off and they are more or less settled to the ground, and with the help of surface runoff, it can, in due course of time, it can become the part of underground water or the existing surface water. But so far I don't think that in Delhi any research has not been conducted whether to establish that what linkages are there with the groundwater to the atmospheric pollutants. But I expect that definitely, especially in the monsoon season, this at least suspended particles, they can become the part of surface water or the underground water.
Sir, as you said about the monsoon region, there is a variation. Does with every change of the season, does the pollution level changes?
Yes, although the pollution concentration doesn't change, but its effect, I mean its impact upon the potential recipients, whether it is human being or other material damage, material things, can vary. I mean, if it is summer could be said as the best period as far as the air for human being in connection to the pollutants. Why? Because every pollutant which is coming out of its source, whether it is industries or it is a vehicle, it is bound to go up, because it is naturally, it is coming through a gas stream, and gas stream is at a higher temperature, so its temperature is more. So what happened, because the gas or the pollutants which are coming are warmer or hotter, so they keep going up and up. So in this way they are not there to remain at the surface where we breathe, because usually at a 6 feet level we breathe, I mean we inhale the air. So we expect, or it should be actually, that it must be over the 6 feet range, so that it shouldn't be inhaled in our body. So in summer it is easily spread out. So it has got, for this it has got a very specific term that is known as dispersion of pollutants. So we say that the pollutant which is emerged has been or have been dispersed into the atmosphere efficiently. But, and so this is the beauty of summer. And what happens in monsoon, although the gaseous pollutants are not much affected, but the solid pollutants, they are mainly the suspended particles of different size, they are affected. I mean, they are washed off. I mean, in other words, we can say a kind of a natural scavenging of atmospheric particles take place. So the particles are not all, but a significant amount is settled to the ground, and that is why we feel better after a heavy rain as far as breathing is concerned. So this is the beauty, or this is the speciality of monsoon. But as far as the winter and nowadays present days season is concerned, this is very dangerous as far as the pollutants are concerned, because what happens in winter season, the dispersion of pollutants becomes very, very difficult. And one thing I forgot to mention, the temperature as we go up, it decreases with height. And this is a thing which is helpful for the dispersion of pollutants. But in winters, what happens, if it is very intense winter, instead of temperature decreasing, it starts increasing as we go up and with altitude. So what happens, pollutants instead of going up or instead of dispersing, it starts remaining into the lower surface, or a kind of blockage mechanism is made, arbitrary blockage mechanism is made, and pollutants are not dispersed into the atmosphere, but they keep remaining into the lower level. So the chances increases that these pollutants will be inhaled by us. So this is a very dangerous situation, although it is a very short-lived phenomenon, but it does occur, and whenever it occurs, it is very dangerous, especially to the people who are patient, especially those having some kind of asthmatic tendencies, or those who are with lower immunity level, mainly the old-aged people, elderlies, or the children. So this winter season, one should be careful, and one advice is there that when you go for a walk, especially in the morning, it is always, especially in the morning and in the winter season, the advice is that the people should not go before sun breaks. I mean, when the sunrise is taken place, as soon as I told you that the dispersion is stopped in winter or it is reduced, but as soon as the sunrise takes place, I mean, sun is there in the horizon. So with the sun rays, this stopping mechanism is gone. I mean, it reduces or it diminishes. So as soon as the sun comes, the dispersion starts. So it is always advised, especially some people I have seen, they walk very early. I mean, at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, they start walking. And if they are old or if they are having some signature of asthma, or if they are suffering by asthma, it is not advisable to go at this time, because the dispersion is stopped during that time and the pollutants mostly remain in the lower strata. So the pollutants which have been generated throughout the day, because the vehicles run in the day period, from morning you can say it starts at 7 o'clock to up to 12 o'clock or so. So the pollutants, what they have emitted, especially after the sunset, I mean 6 o'clock or so, they, instead of dispersing, they remain. So this remaining thing will be continued till the morning sunrise. So they will be the potential, they could be potential recipient of those pollutants. So it is advisable for them, it is advised to them that it is not good to go before the sun breaks.
Even the people with the cardiovascular diseases also asked not to go early in the morning for the morning walks, because it is harmful.
The lungs, if you have breathing trouble, because if someone is asthmatic, or if someone has heart problem, and if the oxygen supply is reduced for them, so the chances are that they may have the stroke kind of thing. It is chance. I mean, by chance, they could have. I mean, there is a possibility that they can have the chance of getting heart attack, and this is the same thing happen. What happens if the pollution level is high? So the our respiratory tract, from where the oxygen goes into our body, I mean lungs, and from lungs it goes to the bloodstream, and that from there it directly goes to the heart. So what happens? These pollutants narrow down, especially for those people who are having asthma, narrow down the respiratory tract. So the oxygen supply reduces significantly or suddenly sometimes. And what happens if the oxygen supply is blocked? The oxygen requirement of the blood present in the lungs will be reduced, and from there because this is a continuous mechanism. So from lungs it should, with the pure oxygen, it should immediately go to the heart. So there is a hindrance, and if there is a hindrance, heart says that there is a lack of oxygen, there is a significant lack of oxygen. So it reacts in a different manner, and then the possibility of getting a heart attack or getting a heart stroke or getting some kind of heart trouble, a smaller level, a higher level are there. So they should avoid.
This should be avoided. Sir, what about the children, basically the children, unborn, if we talk about the babies who are inside the mother's womb, are they also likely to get affected because of the pollution?
Sure, definitely, the baby which is in the womb of her mother receives oxygen definitely from her mother, because she doesn't breathe on her own. So whatever the oxygen she is taking, it is naturally being given to her from her mother's oxygen, what she has taken. So if that oxygen is polluted, naturally the possibilities are that this oxygen will ultimately go to the baby. That is why it is always advised that mothers shouldn't smoke much, because smoke is also a kind of pollutant. So they should either stop, or they should lower it to a minimum level, because it is not that for their safety it is not said, but for the safety of the unborn baby. So the same thing happens for the pollutants. If the pollutants are there, if mother breathed it, the pollutant goes inside the mother's body or mother's lung, and ultimately it goes to the bloodstream. So if it goes to the mother's bloodstream, because the baby breathes through the oxygen that is given to her by the blood of the mother, so finally it will go to the baby. So naturally it might affect the, and as far as researches are concerned, I am not aware that whether any finding is there with the linkage of unborn baby to the air pollutant.
Now, another question has been appeared into my mind. As you said that during the winter seasons, the pollutants, they are not dispersed. They are into one particular position, or we can say that in some way or the another, they are solidified into the atmosphere.
Yes. They are basically a stopping mechanism, or a layer is made, a kind of a unseen wall. So pollutants go up to, unseen roof. So pollutants go up to that particular roof, and from there they either go down or keep on accumulating. So since the pollutants keep on increasing, because number of vehicles are there, they run and they continuously emit the pollutant. So the roof or the room is ultimately filled up with the pollutants, and when the sun breaks, that roof is broken down, and then the pollutant which is being accumulated within that roof will be dispersed.
So here then my question arises, if these pollutants are dispersed, they're not dispersed into the atmosphere during the winter season, especially at the nights, as you said.
Right.
So sir, all the people who are homeless and sleeping on the roads might also get affected with these pollutants?
Naturally they are affected, and there is no doubt that they will be affected, and especially those who are very old, old age people and the children, they will suffer. They do suffer.
So with this note, we would like to tell all the viewers who might be watching us, we are talking about the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So look forward that to what extent you can control the pollution, because pollution is somewhere the cleanliness matter you should take into account, because with the pollution there is a direct connection to somebody's health and somebody's life. So going apart from this, going into the subject completely, sir, we often heard the term ozone. What this ozone is?
Ozone is basically an allotrope. If we, as far as its chemistry is concerned, it's an allotrope of oxygen. Its structure is O3. So it is combined of 3 oxygen atoms, or 1.5 oxygen molecule, and O3 is in one way is very good for us. It is very helpful to us. In other way, it is very, very dangerous. Before going into the details of ozone, I must explain one thing, that is, the atmosphere, what I told earlier, is being stratified into different layer. Like the lowest is troposphere, afterwards is troposphere, stratosphere, then mesosphere, then exosphere, then ionosphere. So there are different layers. The bottom layer is known as troposphere. Afterwards is stratosphere. The troposphere's altitude it starts at the ground level and it goes up to 15 to 20 kilometer. It varies from place to place. At poles it is different and at equator it is different. And from the upper boundary of troposphere, the stratosphere start and it goes up to 50 kilometers. This ozone, one ozone occurs at, although it is in stratosphere, but at the lower part of stratosphere, and there it is in a kind of layer form and it covers more or less the entire earth. So earth is there, and from the surface of the earth, or you can say from the mean sea level, at up to around 15 to 20 kilometers or 25 kilometers, there is a layer that is known as ozone layer, and it is more or less, it totally covers the earth. And this cover or the layer, this is also sometimes known as ozone umbrella. This is very good for us because from sun, because sun's ray is comprised of many different components. It's a kind of electromagnetic rays which contains visible rays, infrared rays, UV rays and other parts also. Out of these major components, three what I told, ultraviolet rays, infrared rays and the visible rays, the ultraviolet rays are very harmful to human being as well as crops, because if we are irradiated by these component of electromagnetic rays of sun, the ultraviolet rays, the chances are there we can get severe health damages. It includes the cancer too, especially the lungs cancer. So ozone has a role to play in this. What happens? The solar radiation, which is composed of UV rays or ultraviolet rays too, reflects back, not reflects back, it basically absorbs the ozone. It absorbs to form the oxide of nitrogen plus oxygen, as well as to regenerate ozone, I mean after combining with oxygen and oxides of nitrogen. So at the ozone layer, a huge or more or less a very significant amount of UV rays, especially the part of UV rays which is very harmful to us, is stopped. So it is stopped the ozone to reach to us. I mean it helps us in a way that it is not allowing the UV ray to irradiate us. On the other hand, ozone is also found on the lower level, that is troposphere. Here the ozone is in the form of pollutants, because there are many methods by which ozones are formed and they remain in troposphere. Ozone is a severe severe air pollutant, a very important air pollutant. If it is present into the atmosphere, it can cause many serious health hazards.
Many serious health hazards, but sir, we have often also heard about that ozone layer is depleting, and if the ozone depletes completely, what will happen?
No, there is a very good news that recently it has been found that ozone's depletion is stopped, not stopped, ozone is healing too. A very recent finding. You know, initially this refrigerators or air conditioners, it uses a kind of gas. With the help of that, the cooling mechanism is there. I mean, refrigerators technique is to cool or to generate the lower temperature than that of ambient temperature, and the same thing is of air conditioner. For that, it uses a gas. Initially, they were the refrigerators and the air conditioner. The gas which were being used is known as chlorofluorocarbon, or the carbon which has chloride atom as well as the fluoride atom. And these chloride atom, this chlorofluorocarbon is highly decomposed. It is easily decomposed into its different radicals, that is chlorine and fluorine. And once it reaches to the ozone, the chances are that it can easily react with the ozone to form a compound, and this way it was reducing the ozone layer. So chlorofluorocarbon, it was found that they were highly dangerous for the ozone layer, and that is why the discoveries were made of the ozone hole, that ozone is depleting at many places, and in due course of time, because ozone is more or less depleting at every place, whether it is equator or any other place of equator, but in due course of time these holes finally are ultimately reached to the pole, and there it is becoming a big hole. But after I think Montreal Protocol, this the uses of this chlorofluorocarbon in refrigerants as well as in the air conditioner were stopped. Strictly it was stopped, and in place of that an alternative organic compound was given, and that was not injurious to dangerous to the ozone hole. So nowadays it has been found, very recently it was found, that the healing of ozone, the ozone which was disturbed earlier or the concentration which were lower down, is now regaining, it is establishing again. So maybe in due course of time the ozone layer is completely regained. And I must I think I forgot one thing, what were the dangers because of the ozone hole. If the ozone hole is there, the chances are there that the ultraviolet ray will easily pass through it and will reach to the human being, and it can pose many serious health hazard.
As we have heard also that it is not at all good for skin also, these ultraviolet
yes, it can
radiations.
cause skin cancer, and there were incidences of skin cancer in Australia. Australia is not far off from the South Pole, and there, because Australia has a long beach and the people are habitual to lie down on the beach with
for the sunbaths.
For sunbath with very little clothes, and there if they are irradiated with even a small amount of UV rays, but for a longer period, so, and they regularly visit there. It is in India we don't have this type of culture for sunbath on the beach, not I mean it could be very less, but in European countries or Western countries it is there. So and since it is near the pole, so the UV's concentration were more in Australia and in some other countries in comparison to many other countries. So the chances of occurrence of skin cancers were more there.
So those nations or those countries are likely to get more exposed to the sunlight, that especially to the ultraviolet radiations.
Yes,
then they are more likely to cause this kind of danger. So we have also heard about the term smog.
Smog, yes.
What this term smog is?
Smog is basically, there are two types of smog. One is classical smog, another is smog. So what smog is? The classical smog, we can say in a very general term, is basically the combination of smoke plus fog. This smog is generally occur during the winter season, especially in the foggy season. What happens when the smoke particles which are emitted from various industrial process, maybe from the vehicular emissions also, when they combine with the fog. So now around the smoke particle a fog layer is made, and its tendency becomes such as they might remain into the atmosphere for a very longer time, because in winter season the dispersion is already, I have told you, lower down, and this smog, once it is inhaled inside our body, then its decomposition, because as soon as it goes into our body and it already contains some amount of fog. And what is fog? That is basically water. So it can easily break down into smaller particles, and once it is broken down into the smaller particles, so the chances are there that these particles can easily penetrate deeper into our sensitive respiratory systems. So this is one of the smog that is known as classical smog. Apart from that, when different two pollutants, one is oxide of nitrogen, which is mainly generated from vehicle, as well as volatile organic compound, they are also industrially emitted pollutants. When they combine, in the presence of sunlight, especially over 18 degrees centigrade, a new kind of pollutant is formed. That is known as photochemical smog, or generally we call it as smog. And this photochemical smog is comprised of many hazardous pollutants, and the main two pollutants that it can be comprised of are peroxyacyl nitrate or peroxyacetyl nitrate, as well as ozone. This PAN as well as ozone, both are very dangerous to human health.
So this is all about the smog, we can say so.
Photochemical smog.
Photochemical smog. Sir, the concern with which we all are fighting, and major countries of the world, the concern for which they are fighting for is the global warming. Every nation is crying because of the industrial waste or the industrial pollution or the man-made pollution, that is, which is directly connected to the air pollution, is somewhere the cause of the global warming. Do you feel so that if the rate of air pollution will be at the such extent what it is today,
Yes,
it is going to hamper?
Global warming is taking place, it is still there. Although its effects are not visible nowadays, but global warming is there. What is global warming? Our globe has a average temperature any particular day, any particular time, at any particular place. But if this temperature is altered, not altered, if it is increased, then we say that the temperature is increased. The warming is taking place, and this is happening for many years. For many years, the scientists have been observing the temperature of globe. The average temperature of globe is rising continuously. This is known as global warming. So the globe is warming, undoubtedly. It has well been established, but we are yet to face its consequences, and the major consequences of the global warming could be the sea level rise. How sea level rise? Because there are many glaciers, whether they are poles, South Pole or North Pole, or Greenland, which is totally locked by ice, and they are locked by ice because they have a certain temperature, certain average temperature throughout of the year. That is why it's, as far as the ice concentration is concerned, it increases and then it decreases. Again it increases, but it finally acquires or finally gets its original shape. But the average temperature, if it is increased, the chances are there that the ice will melt. But when it should be revert back, when it should be freeze to its original position, it will not freeze in the same concentration. It will lower down, or ultimately it will lose some ice. So in Duke, because it will lose some ice this year, some ice next year, some ice next year. So ultimately what will happen? The ice will keep on decreasing and decreasing. Where this ice will go? Finally it will reach to the oceans or different seas. And this is because there are many places which is completely locked by ice. The same thing is with the South Pole, North Pole, Greenland, and as well as a huge portion or a major portion of the Himalayan mountain. So this water will finally ultimately go to the ocean, and this will increase the mean sea level of the ocean. So people are concerned because those countries which are either at the coastal, near the ocean, or which are in island form, they will be submerged, or the sea level rise will become very, very significant to those, and it can have many hazardous, many severe implications.
But in some way or the another, industrialization could be the basic cause. Of course, every country has to or wants to raise its economy by the means of the industrialization, but for the benefit of the mankind, for the benefit of the humankind, it is necessary that we should take concrete steps.
Yeah, different alternatives are scientists are working hard to find different alternatives, because if we won't find the different alternatives or the significant alternatives, the chances are there. Because recently, if you would have read the newspaper, some 3 or 4 days back or 1 week back, I read it. The very recent IPCC's news was there that by 2050 the petroleum uses of petroleum should be reduced by 90% or so, because it is contributing to the global warming pollutants. And by, I exactly don't remember the year, I think by 2075 or so, the petroleum uses of petroleum products should be stopped completely. So how we can stop? We'll have to find other alternatives where we can have the development, or we can have our sustenance as well as we can not contribute to the global warming.
Sir, you also discussed about the air quality index or air pollution index. What this index is?
Well, as far as the air pollutant is concerned, there, I think in our previous lecture also I have mentioned that there are thousands of pollutants as far as the gaseous pollutants are concerned. But it is not that all the pollutants are emitted in same concentration and same everywhere, but there are some pollutants which are emitted maximum and more or less at all the places. They are known as criteria pollutants. They are mainly different. Initially there were different 5 pollutants, now they have increased. They were ozone, that is O3, oxides of nitrogen, mainly that is NO2, sulfur dioxide, that is SO2, suspended particulate matter, and carbon monoxide. So they were the 5 criteria pollutants. Now very recently Government of India has also launched the air quality index, but they have increased the number of pollutants to 7 or 8. Now they have again segregated this suspended particulate matters into 2, that is PM10 and PM2.5, ozone as same, oxide of nitrogen as same, sulfur dioxide, that is 4th and the same, and lead they have included 5, carbon monoxide as same, and one more thing, that is I think oxide of hydrocarbon or ammonium. I think I exactly don't remember, but I think it is ammonium. So they have increased it to different 7 pollutants. Now what air quality index is actually, if we consider the 5 original criteria pollutants that I told you earlier, every pollutant have some prescribed limit. I mean, ozone, if we take the example of ozone, that it is said that if ozone's concentration is atmosphere is up to this level, then it is okay, and if it crosses that limit, it is dangerous. If it crosses that furthermore, then it is very dangerous. The same thing is for other pollutants, let it be for other remaining pollutants. So keeping in mind all the pollutants and having information about the limit is very difficult. That is why it is always good to combine these 5, or if we take the Government of India's policy now, present day's policy, if we combine all these 7 pollutants together and its effect is given in a numerical form, that is known as air quality index, like 100 or 200 or 500. So if we say that it is 100, air quality index is 100, it means that in 100 ozone's contribution will be some fixed amount, oxides of nitrogen's concentration will be some fixed amount, oxide of sulfur's composition or contribution will be some fixed amount, and so on. So this is how now we have got a combined picture, and this is given in the form of air quality index or AQI. So if AQI is 50, then we can say that the condition is good. I mean, it is livable, very nice, we are not in a polluting environment. If it is 50, if air quality index is 50, if it is more than 50, or if it is from 50 to 100, then we will say that it is not very good, but it is satisfactory, it is okay, that we can still live, or we can still play, or we can move around. If it goes from 100 to 200, then we will say that it is moderately polluted. We'll say that it is moderately polluted, still it is okay, especially for Delhi type of city. But if further increases, if it goes from 200 to 300, then we'll say that air quality is poor. We'll say that air quality is poor. It means that the person who is healthy or who is having better health, he cannot have much problems, but those people who are having some health issues, they might have problem, or those who are elder or those who are young, I mean children, etc., they might have some problem. So it is, till then it is okay, but if it crosses the limit of 300, then we will say that it is very poor, means 300 to 400, then we will say that the air quality is very poor. So one should, even the healthy people, healthy person can have some or can face some problem. So it is, now it is advisable then that we'll have to look for the sources, or we should remain indoors. We should not venture out much, and we must find out what are the main culprits. I mean, from where maybe there could be there could be somewhere 1 or 2 regions, and we nullify those 1 or 2 regions, the air quality can be retained back. And if it crosses even the limit of 400, I mean if it goes more than 400, then we will say that it is a situation of emergency, or it is a very hazardous situation. Now the time is there that we'll have to immediately stop those, I mean those sources which are giving rise to such amount of pollutants. I mean it has to be immediately stopped, otherwise it could be very disastrous.
Very disastrous. With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving deep insight into the topic, that is air pollution. Although we have discussed air pollution in detail in previous sessions also, but today's session was very productive because we were able to recall all the terms and terminologies which we sometimes tend to skip. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much.